Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about using our mindful practice to build this self-awareness that develops into this really compassionate self-acceptance that helps us understand really the root of who we are, our limitations, our passions, what helps us thrive, our vulnerabilities, our weaknesses, places that trigger us, and how we use that non-judgmental awareness to then make choices, build a lifestyle that is compatible to us and supports us, which of course leads to us being able to thrive in life, to live our purpose, to show up in this world as the person we were really meant to be, able to offer our gifts and our love and shine our light. And I think where many of us struggle with this is, instead of turning inward and really listening to, honoring, respecting our experience, we end up looking outward and developing a lot of shoulds and comparisons and pressuring ourselves to fit into what society or family or molds tell us that is acceptable or that would be most beneficial to us. And oftentimes it leads to us trying to fit places, putting a round peg in a square hole. And you just get frustrated. That leads to, decreased self-love, self-care, because we're angry at ourselves, wondering why the heck, what is wrong with me that I can't function here. And I think about this in my own life and how many times I felt that and did it in, first maybe experienced it in the way of what's wrong with me, right? And we kind of do that in our society. Then we go to a psychologist or a therapist or something, and then we have to have an explanation of, we have this problem or this hypersensitivity or this, we're on the spectrum in this way, and this is, that explains why we don't fit in this way. But there's another approach to that that doesn't just label us as this outsider or the one that's, I don't want to say trouble, but the one that's the outlier or out of norm. And I think what mindfulness does is help us see the truth and the reality of that, is that all of us are so different, and somewhere on that, I don't want to say spectrum because it gets associated with certain, ideas, but we all have differences, and it's the only kind of problem that lies in that is when we feel like there's a discrepancy in who we are and who we should be, and when we try to fit ourselves into a norm or a place where it doesn't serve us well, it triggers our limitations, highlights them, pokes at them, irritates them, versus in a place that's soothing, supportive, helpful, and allows us to blossom and be true to ourselves. So I think about that of when I was in high school, I had a dear friend questioning whether to put her daughter into public high school. And for me, high school was I think from middle school and then on to high school was really, really difficult, as the nature of who I was, and I didn't feel like I fit in. I had friends in many different groups in school, and so I never really knew who to sit with at lunch. I remember that anxiety of like walking into the lunchroom and looking around being like, I don't know where to sit. I don't know where my people are. I remember not feeling like I fit in classes. Like I was just irritated and frustrated and was bored, bored to death, so frustrated that we had to sit there on a topic that I understood in 20 minutes and I had to spend an hour and a half on, frustrated at what the other kids were doing. I didn't want to participate in their conversations and their dramas. So it left me feeling really isolated and like I didn't belong at all. And so I could have believed that, and I did for a while. And then I could have just kept believing that and taken that on as there's something wrong with me. But luckily, with the reality I was in, the supports that I had, I got to recognize maybe there's something wrong with this situation for me. And so we made a choice to move to a private school where our classes were about 7 kids, where we were much more stimulated, where there weren't as many cliques, because we couldn't. In a class of 30, you're kind of all associated together. There isn't really that grouping. There were less kids, so less competition. So I got to play in a lot of the sports I couldn't play in the big high school. And for me, this new environment allowed me to blossom, to thrive. And that is, there's nothing wrong with you. Sometimes if you're in a situation, you're noticing I'm clashing, I'm not getting along, I'm struggling, I go home at the end of the day with headaches, stomach aches, and we internalize that a lot. What's wrong with me that I can't make this work? Sometimes flipping that narrative and saying, what's wrong with this environment that isn't suited for my character and my personality? I did that again in my life with teaching. And I kept trying because I had all the skill sets, I had all the education to be a teacher. And yet especially in public school, when I was teaching in public schools, I came home every day with a headache. I had stomach aches all day long. It was hurting my back. I felt tense and stressed. And I internalize and think, what's wrong with me? This is not supposed to be that stressful of a job. I should be able to handle this. I'm just teaching. But it was kind of during my teaching career that I started my mindfulness path, and I got to explore that and listen to myself and grow deep compassion of that environment is way too overwhelming to somebody who is very sensitive and who takes on a lot of the energies around them. Being around 30 noisy kids all day long is too much. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means you're in the wrong environment to take care of yourself. So when we use our mindfulness to start exploring that and understanding, like, I understand in myself, I take on a lot of the energies around me. Okay, I know that about myself. I don't have to go fix it or change it, which would be really hard because it would be pushing myself to not be true to my nature, to not be true to my character. And if you really believe in this kind of greater system of that which is greater, this universe, whatever it is, forming us all in our uniqueness because we're meant to be here as the people we are, then honoring that, respecting it, giving it justice would be listening to it. And instead of trying to change our root character to fit into a norm or make ourselves follow a path that we thought we should, we are going against that nature of this whole universe, of our place in this world. And so instead, using that self-awareness to say, I was made this way for a reason. This is not a problem with me. This is not a diagnosis in me. This is a gift. This is a blessing. I'm going to use this awareness of myself, this knowledge of who I am and understanding of who I am, to find the path that suits me. And when I find that, there's a reason I'm in it, because I'm a unique individual, and then I'm going to be serving the world in the way I'm supposed to. So getting out of teaching allowed me to then find this career as a mindfulness coach, which, as most of my friends know, also comes with challenges. And yet, when I'm doing it, I feel so alive. I feel so healthy, so happy, and definitely like my true light is shining. And it's more conducive to who I am. I get to be quiet. I get to have silent meditation retreats. I get to teach other people how to turn inward and love themselves. And that's what I was meant to do. And so instead of looking at my kind of hypersensitivity as an issue, as something that pulls me apart from others, if I don't label it as that and I look in and say, you're gifted with this sensitivity, and it's going to lead you somewhere that in fact is beneficial and serves this whole society so much more than if you were trying to change yourself and force yourself into a different role or identity. So this mindfulness helps us to say, my limitations, yeah, sometimes we can grow through them, and I have in a lot of ways through my travel and all of that, but the root character of being very sensitive and feeling the emotions of others, taking on their energies, that's always going to be there. And so we understand what those are for ourselves. We understand what they mean for how we can show up in the world and who we can be, the kind of environments we thrive in. And then in making choices that support that honor it, that give it love and compassion, it's like me allowing myself not to be in crazy, loud, overcrowded areas where I'm not self-guided. That is self-compassion, saying you don't have to do that. Come back to an environment that serves you well. And when you do have to go into those other environments, you recognize and you say, this will be a limited time. We'll do our best here. And then you get to go outside, and be in nature in the quiet for a while to balance this for yourself. And so it's honoring you, it's respecting you, it's loving you, it's recognizing that you were created as the exact person you're meant to be. So lean into those limitations, lean into the vulnerabilities, the difficulties, and ask them, what are you leading me to do that's different? How is this showing me that I have a very different role here than maybe the norm or the standard, and that could actually be a blessing to me and this world? It's not a diagnosis. It's not something wrong with me. It's not something I have to fix. It's something I have to learn about, understand, and then make great choices on how to support it and live well with it. So I invite you this week, look at yourself with great compassion and love, and look at those things, those root characteristics, and say, how can I support you better? Am I living in a way that's being true to you and honoring you and taking care of you, not putting you in situations that trigger this all the time or poke at it, make it harder, but that really support you? And where would that lead you? Would you make some different choices? Where would that take you, and how could it help you to thrive and blossom even more? That was a long one today. My next class series is actually the Intro to Mindful Yoga through the Rec Center. So if you're someone who's been curious about yoga but afraid maybe you don't understand the poses enough, you don't really know how to engage with the practice, you need a little more guidance, this is a great opportunity for you to learn more with more explanation and guidance before entering a regular group class. So that's through the Rec Center starting June 9th. And then please join us on June 20th. We're going out into nature. We're going to spend time in silence, in silent meditation, guided meditation. We'll do some walking. Some people can do a hike. We'll do mindful eating. It's going to be such a nurturing way to spend a day together. And of course, my book on Disentangled, Mindfully Freeing Ourselves from Emotional Abuse, is available. Find that anywhere you get your reading content. I hope to see you all very soon.